In 1963, a Kurdish shepherd noticed something unusual on a remote hilltop in southeastern Turkey. Smooth stones jutting from the ground. What he'd stumbled upon would shatter everything archaeologists believed about the dawn of civilization. This is Göbekli Tepe, a monumental complex built 12,000 years ago. A place that, according to everything we knew, simply shouldn't exist. Göbekli Tepe, which means Potbelly Hill in Turkish, sits in the Jurmis mountain range, 15 kilometers from Sanliurfa. To put its age in perspective, it predates Stonehenge by 6,500 years, the Great Pyramids by 7,000 years, and the invention of pottery, writing, and the wheel. When these massive stones were erected, woolly mammoths still roamed the earth. Here's why this is revolutionary. In 10,000 BCE, humans were supposed to be nomadic hunter-gatherers. Small bands of 20 to 30 people, moving with the seasons, living hand-to-mouth. No agriculture, no domesticated animals, no permanent settlements, no social hierarchy, no organized religion requiring temples. Building monumental architecture requires surplus food, surplus time, surplus labor. And our textbooks insisted that surplus only came after the agricultural revolution, after humans learned to farm. Göbekli Tepe turns that narrative upside down. Our story begins with Savik Yildiz, a shepherd tending his flock in October 1963. Walking across the hilltop, he noticed unusually smooth stones protruding from the soil. Local farmers had known about them for generations, assuming they marked an old Islamic cemetery. That same year, American archaeologist Peter Benedict, working on a survey for Istanbul University, documented the site. But he saw only broken limestone. The survey noted flint artifacts, but concluded there was nothing of major importance. For 30 years, the site lay forgotten, its true significance invisible beneath centuries of dust and assumptions. Enter Klaus Schmidt, a German archaeologist with the German Archaeological Institute in Istanbul. In 1994, while reviewing old survey reports, Schmidt noticed something intriguing. The 1963 notes mentioned limestone slabs and pre-pottery Neolithic flint. Schmidt had worked at Navali Quarry, another Neolithic site, and he recognized that this description didn't match a simple cemetery. In November 1994, Schmidt drove out to investigate. What he found stopped him cold. These weren't natural stones. They were carved, shaped, deliberately placed. The flint artifacts scattered everywhere dated to 10,000 BCE or earlier. Schmidt later recalled, "Within the first minute of first seeing it, I knew I had two choices: go away and tell nobody, or spend the rest of my life working here." He chose the latter. What emerged from Schmidt's excavations defied comprehension. Massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some 18 feet tall, weighing up to 16 tons, arranged in circular enclosures. These weren't crude stones. They were precisely carved, covered in sophisticated three-dimensional reliefs. Scorpions crawling across the surface, foxes prowling, wild boars charging, vultures with outstretched wings, snakes coiling, spiders descending, lions stalking, and most mysteriously, abstract symbols, H-shapes, C-shapes, crescents, whose meanings remain unknown. Each pillar is a masterwork, and there are dozens of them. Ground-penetrating radar suggests up to 20 circular structures buried across 22 acres. Schmidt's team has excavated less than 5% of the site. The engineering achievement is staggering. The pillars were quarried from limestone bedrock about 1 kilometer away. We can still see the quarry, with the ghostly outline of an unfinished pillar abandoned mid-carving. Using only flint tools, no metal, workers carved these massive blocks from solid rock. Then came the real challenge: transport. Moving a 16-ton pillar without wheels, without draft animals, without metal tools. Archaeologists estimate it would require 500 people pulling with ropes, coordinating every movement. One pillar represents thousands of work hours. The entire complex? Hundreds of thousands of person-hours, perhaps millions. For a society that supposedly lived hand-to-mouth, Here's where it gets stranger. There's no evidence anyone lived at Göbekli Tepe. No houses, no hearths, no trash middens filled with daily debris, no storage facilities. It wasn't a settlement. It was purely ceremonial. A temple complex. But temples are built by settled societies with agriculture, surplus, and hierarchy. Göbekli Tepe had none of those things. Analysis of food remains, thousands of gazelle and wild cattle bones, confirms these people were still hunting. The bones show classic kill patterns from game drives. No domesticated sheep, no cultivated grains. Just wild animals hunted and consumed in massive numbers. This was a pilgrimage site. People came from distances, bringing game, gathering for feasts, for rituals we can only imagine. Imagine the scene 12,000 years ago. Bands of hunter-gatherers, perhaps from 100 kilometers around, converging on this sacred hill. They bring their best hunters, their kill from the gazelle herds. Hundreds gather, maybe 1,000, more people than these bands ever see in one place. Fires blaze. The pillars loom overhead, their animal spirits seeming to move in the flickering light. Meat roasts. Stories are told. Marriages arranged. Alliances forged. And in the darkness, surrounded by these massive stones, rituals unfold. This wasn't just a temple. It was the social glue holding together a vast network of hunter-gatherer communities. The pillars themselves hold secrets. Look closely at their T-shapes. They're anthropomorphic, stylized humans. Some have arms carved on their sides, hands meeting at the belly. Some wear belts with foxtails. They're not representations of gods. They may be gods. Pillar 43, the so-called vulture stone, has sparked intense debate. A vulture clutches a sphere. A scorpion sits below. Some researchers, like Martin Sweatman from Edinburgh University, propose it's a star map, depicting the constellations as they appeared in 10,950 BCE, possibly recording a catastrophic comet impact. Others dismiss this as pattern seeking. But one thing is certain. These symbols meant something profound to their creators. Each circular enclosure follows a pattern. An outer ring of smaller pillars surrounds two massive central pillars, often 15 feet tall. Enclosure D, the largest excavated so far, contains 12 pillars in its outer ring and two central giants. The enclosures average 30 meters in diameter. They're not random. They're precisely planned, aligned, constructed with purpose. 4 major enclosures have been excavated: A, B, C, and D. Layer 3, the oldest, dates to 9600 to 9000 BCE. Layer 2 is slightly younger, 8800 to 8000 BCE. Surprisingly, the oldest structures are the most sophisticated. Over time, the pillars get smaller, cruder. The civilization was declining, not rising. Göbekli Tepe demolishes the foundational narrative of civilization. For 150 years, we believed. First came agriculture, then surplus, then settlement, then social hierarchy, then religion and monumental architecture. A nice linear progression. Göbekli Tepe reverses it entirely. Klaus Schmidt proposed a radical theory. Religion came first. Hunter-gatherers built the temple complex before they became farmers. The massive labor required to build and maintain the site, and to feed the workers, created pressure to produce more food. This pressure drove them to experiment with cultivating wild cereals. Agriculture didn't lead to civilization. The need to sustain a ritual center led to agriculture. Göbekli Tepe, Schmidt argued, was the birthplace of Neolithic revolution. The evidence is compelling. Genetic studies of wheat have traced all domesticated einkorn, one of the founder crops of agriculture, back to wild strains from the Karakidak Mountains, just 30 kilometers from Göbekli Tepe. This region, the northern Fertile Crescent, became the epicenter of the agricultural revolution around 8,500 BC, roughly a millennium after Göbekli Tepe's construction began. Coincidence? Schmidt didn't think so. Perhaps the gatherings at Göbekli Tepe, hundreds of people requiring feeding over days or weeks, created the first systematic harvesting of wild grains. Perhaps this repeated harvesting year after year led someone to notice that seeds could be planted. Perhaps civilization began not with a plow, but with a prayer. What do the animal carvings mean? Some researchers suggest they're totems, clan symbols. Different groups may have been represented by the fox, the boar, the vulture. Others note the prominence of dangerous animals: scorpions, snakes, predators. Very few carvings show the animals these people ate: the gazelle, the deer. Perhaps these weren't just animals, but spirits, forces of nature to be respected or feared. Some scholars propose shamanic interpretations, that Göbekli Tepe was a place where shamans communed with the spirit world, possibly aided by psychoactive plants native to the region. The pillars themselves, standing like sentinels, may have been seen as guardians between worlds, between the human and the divine, the living and the dead. Perhaps the most mysterious aspect of Göbekli Tepe is how it ended. The site wasn't abandoned or destroyed. It was deliberately buried. Around 8000 BCE, the inhabitants carefully filled the enclosures with debris, broken limestone, flint tools, animal bones, creating massive fill layers meters thick. It wasn't natural accumulation. It was intentional entombment. They preserved the pillars, protected them, and then built new enclosures on top. Why? Were the old temples losing their power? Was this a ritual closing? A changing of spiritual eras? We don't know. But this deliberate burial is why the site survived so perfectly for 10,000 years. The builders ensured their temple would endure, though they couldn't know it would be forgotten. Klaus Schmidt devoted 20 years of his life to Göbekli Tepe. Every excavation season from 1995 until his sudden death in 2014, he returned to that Turkish hillside. He worked with Turkish partners, trained generations of archaeologists, and transformed our understanding of human history. His colleagues remember his infectious enthusiasm, his willingness to challenge orthodoxy, his vision. He didn't live to see the site designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2018, but his work continues. Turkish and German teams still excavate today, and every season brings new discoveries. A modern visitor center now protects the site, with dramatic canopy roofs sheltering the ancient stones from the elements. Here's the breathtaking reality. We've barely scratched the surface. Literally, ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry surveys reveal at least 16 more circular structures buried beneath the hill, so maybe even larger than what's been excavated. At the current pace, it could take 100 years to fully excavate Göbekli Tepe. And it's not alone. Nearby Karahan Tepe, excavated since 2019, shows similar T-shaped pillars, and maybe even older. Harbet-Suvin Tepe, Sefer Tepe, Hamzin Tepe, a whole network of Neolithic ceremonial sites dots the region. Göbekli Tepe wasn't an isolated anomaly. It was part of a sophisticated cultural complex spanning centuries and hundreds of square kilometers. We're not looking at one mysterious temple. We're looking at a civilization. Not everyone agrees with Schmidt's interpretation. Some archaeologists argue the site proves social hierarchy existed before agriculture, that a powerful elite commanded the labor to build the temples. Others suggest it was a collaborative effort among equals, driven by shared belief rather than coercion. Dr. Jens Natroff, who succeeded Schmidt, proposes Göbekli Tepe was a regional center for knowledge exchange, where different groups shared techniques, stories, innovations. Some researchers question whether it was purely ceremonial, suggesting low-level habitation we haven't found yet. The debates are fierce because the stakes are high. Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider everything. What drove early humans to create civilization? Was it necessity or aspiration? Survival or spirituality? Let's return to that hilltop 11,000 years ago and imagine the reality. It's autumn, the season of plenty after the summer hunt. Groups begin arriving, having traveled for days. The hill is visible from far away, a landmark. As they approach, they see smoke rising. Others are already here. Hundreds of people, the largest gathering these hunters have ever seen. The enclosures are open to the sky. Tonight, under the full moon, the pillars cast long shadows. Fires illuminate the carved animals, making them seem alive. Drums echo. Voices rise in chants passed down through generations. This is where the world makes sense, where the spirits of animals are honored, where marriages are arranged, stories told, identities forged. This is the center of their world. Göbekli Tepe reveals something profound about human nature. The need for sacred space, for communal ritual, for connection to something greater. These impulses are ancient, maybe the most ancient impulses of civilization. Every cathedral, every temple, every sacred site in human history traces its lineage back to that Turkish hillside. We didn't build monuments because we had surplus. We created surplus because we needed monuments. The human desire for meaning, for transcendence, for community drove us to invent civilization itself. Göbekli Tepe is the first chapter in a story that continues today. The story of humans reaching for the divine, and in that reach, becoming something more than mere survival machines. Today, Göbekli Tepe welcomes visitors from around the world. Turkish families on holiday, archaeologists, pilgrims of a different sort, all drawn to stand before these ancient stones. Conservation is a constant challenge. Exposure to air and weather threatens carvings that survived 10,000 years underground. International teams work year-round to stabilize, protect, document. Every season brings new questions. Who are the artists who carved these animals? What language did they speak? What songs did they sing? What stories did they tell their children? We know they looked up at the same stars, felt the same wind, wondered about the same mysteries. In them, we see ourselves. Göbekli Tepe stands as a monument to human ambition, creativity, and faith. Built by people with stone tools and impossible dreams. It shouldn't exist. By all our theories, it's impossible. And yet, there it stands. Proof that we've underestimated our ancestors, that we've oversimplified human history, that the march of civilization is far stranger and more wondrous than we imagined. These hunters who became builders, who created sacred space before they created farms, who reached for the divine before they reached for the plow. They were us. Fully human, fully capable, and they left us a message carved in stone. We are, and have always been, more than we seem. Göbekli Tepe, the 12,000-year-old city that shouldn't exist. Special thanks to the late Klaus Schmidt, whose vision gave us back 6,000 years of human history. The excavation continues. The mysteries deepen, and the stones keep their secrets waiting.